So I'm very proud to show you this little flower crane that I created. There's a few steps that are different than the traditional crane, which I will show you, but you can see it's still got this cute little head. It's got the wings and the tail, but they're all open and fanned out so that they look like little flower petals. So I'm still working out some of the kinks, so I hope you can bear with me, and I will show you how to make one. So you're going to want to start with your paper. I like this paper because when it's all folded up, it creates this pretty gradient on the wings, or it could be on the tail, depending on which side you pick, but it ends up making this really beautiful flower petal effect. And the first thing we're going to do is make our bird base. So my preferred way of making it is the traditional way that my grandmother taught me. You fold your paper in half into a triangle and crease. You fold it in half again and crease. And then you have these little, I refer to them as pita pockets. You open it and you take your far point and bring it to your opposite point and crease it down. Then you flip it over. For me, I like to kind of point this new pita pocket up like a shark fin. It just makes it a little bit easier. I don't know if you saw that. I just kind of ran my fingernail along that seam to help it stand up and stay straight. And again, you open it and flatten it out, and it creates this nice bird base. If this was confusing or difficult, please check out my other video where I show you 3 different ways to make this bird base shape. So the next step is similar to how we make the traditional crane. We're going to take our lower bottom edge here and we're going to fold it into this center crease to start forming a shape that's going to look like a kite. Like so. I also like to give this a nice good crease because it's going to be important. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Crease it up real good. Now I'm going to flip the whole thing over and I'm going to do it again. Once that is done, this is where we're going to change up. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up these flaps. I'm opening them on both sides at the same time. You can do them one at a time, but that's my kind of habit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of peel up this top layer just a little bit, just enough so I can get my hands in there. And what I'm going to do is, using this crease that we just made, I'm going to invert and I'm going to tuck it in. So the whole thing is going to get tucked in. Now this is a really thin origami paper, so I have to really help it along. If you have a slightly thicker origami paper, that'll actually kind of pop in real easy on its own. But I'm going to repeat that on all 4 sides. So I'm going to open and tuck this in, help it along if it needs it. And I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to rotate it to see if the camera can get a slightly different view while I do this. I'm going to open. I'm going to tuck this in, assist it along, and repeat. Open, tuck, assist. All right, so now we have this really nice kite shape. So the next step is we're going to do similar to what we just did. We're going to take this bottom edge and we're going to fold it into the center crease. Now when I do this, I want to be very careful that I keep my point as nice and pointy as I can. I'm just going to take that bottom edge and fold it in like so. And I'm just going to take some care at the point to make sure it stays nice and pointy. I'm going to do the same thing on the other edge. You'll see that I'm holding this instead of doing it on the table. All this does is it helps me get a better, some better ability to really manage that point. But if you prefer to do it on the table, That works too. And I'm going to flip it over and repeat. So I'm taking my kite and I'm making it like a super duper skinny kite. And I'm going to repeat on my last edge. And then I'm going to crease everything really good. My fingernails work really good for this. If yours do not, don't hesitate to pull out a bone creaser, or the back side of some scissors will work really well. So now that we've done that, I'm actually going to open up all those flaps because we just need the crease. Now, when I first made this, I didn't include this step, but the reason why I did is because when all the wings and tails are open, you can see the creases that we're going to make later on in making the tail, and I wanted it to be symmetrical, especially with a pattern like this where you can see it. And I kind of liked it on this because it made it look like veins in a flower, so it ended up working out really well. So once it's open, we're going to take our top flap and we're just going to fold it up, and it's going to start going back to looking like the traditional crane. I'm going to flip it over, we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to fold it up, just that top flap. So you'll have the wiggly dancy legs at the bottom, and then 2 flaps, and this will form the body when we're done. So once it's like that, we're going to do our book fold, and we're just going to flip a page as if we're folding the page over in a book. Flip it over and repeat. And then you're going to have what my sister and I always thought looked like a dog face, like pointy ears and snout. And we're going to start going on with traditional crane steps. So what we do is we're going to take our bottom edge and we're going to fold it into our center crease. And we already have this nice line to help out with that. So we're just going to fold it in, crease it, and then we're going to repeat with all 4 edges. I'm just going to take a few minutes to kind of straighten mine up a little bit. It's a little bit crooked. But once that's been kind of straightened up a little bit, I give it all a good crease. And then we're going to take the bottom half and fold it up to the top half. We're going to flip it over and we're going to repeat. Just like that. Now, this is where the whole thing's going to start to deviate because this looks like a pretty standard crane, but we're going to change it. Now, if you look where I folded it, you can see this original crease. That was the straight line. And what we're going to do is we want to use that line as our center point so that from the point to the edge, the paper lines up. And you'll know you did it right when you flatten out this piece again and the edges line up. So again, if we pull back that little flap, you can see the original crease. And we're going to use that as our center point so that we can line up the 2 edges of the paper. And then we're going to flatten it out, and it's going to create matching shapes. I'm going to flip it over and we're going to repeat. I'm going to take that crease on the diagonal. We're going to line up our paper and flatten it out and repeat. I'm going to take that crease, that diagonal. We're going to flatten it out. Okay, so then we now have this shape. I don't know why, but it kind of reminds me of a crystal. We're then going to do our book fold. So that what was in the middle is now on the outside. Flip it over and repeat. And then if we look at it from the top points, we have what is looking like a crane, but just slightly different. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop open this center so that it's inflated like that. And I found the easiest way to do it is to kind of hold as close to the middle as possible with between your thumb and your forefinger, and to just kind of rotate it out. And then with this one, once you kind of get it going, I like to pinch where this overlap is. Pinch where that overlap is. And just kind of pull it out to help expand it. And so it's kind of a slow and gentle process. I also find if you open up what's going to be the tail, it gives you a little bit more room to work in. You can kind of pinch it with your thumbs and flatten it. It's, like I said, a little bit of a slow process. So now what I like to do is, as that's slowly opening, but not completely open, is I'm going to turn my head into the head that I want. So one thing that I did do as I was experimenting is if you just open it up like this, you'd have just a standard flower. But I really like the idea of turning this standard flower into a flower crane. And so all we're going to do is, on that crease that we made earlier, we're just going to fold these inward like so. We're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to fold it in so they line up. I'm just going to crease them down real good, and that makes the little crane neck, which we can turn into the head. And with that, I'm going to get back to folding and popping open this middle part. This paper is apparently going to be extra difficult. There we go. So it's a little bit wrinklier than I was hoping for, but that works. So next step is to curl the wings and the tail. And to do that, I like to just take a standard pair of scissors, and just like if it was ribbon on a present or a balloon, I pinch the base, and then I pinch the paper between my thumb and the scissor, and I just gently but firmly pull, and it creates that nice little curl. And then I'm going to do it to the wings. And the second wing. It creates that pretty little curl. And you'll notice on these ones I kind of curl it back. That's just kind of an experimental thing that I had been doing. But you just do the same thing, just in the opposite direction. It gives it this cute little curl. And then we're going to form the head the way that we do on any crane. For me, I like to open it up a little bit, fold down the top, and then just use my fingernail to pinch it in between and close it up. This one needs some extra help with flattening. And there we go. So that is the flower crane. You notice this one that I showed you earlier, it kind of comes up. I was aiming to make like a little bit of a bud kind of feeling to it, and it's the same thing. I just curled up and in, and then I curled the tips out. And here we go, some pretty little flower cranes. I hope this wasn't too confusing. Like I said, I'm still working some of the kinks out. If you have any questions, please message me, and I'd be happy to talk about it. Thank you.